I thought the worst part of my injury was being stuck in bed, until I found the love letters hidden beneath our floorboards. My name's Ben McAllister, 45 years old, former Marine, now just a busted-up farmer with too much land and not enough help. I don't talk much. Never have. Pain gets packed down, not spoken out loud. I believe in fences, hard work, and keeping my word, even when it hurts. My wife, Tina, she's 41. Folks in town say she's the strong, quiet type. Always put together. Smile never quite reaches her eyes, but they all love her pies and think we've got the kind of marriage worth envying. She used to laugh a lot more, before the war in me became the war around us. These days, she mostly hums while cleaning and watches the clock like it owes her something. We've been married 19 years. No kids. Just corn, wheat, chickens, and silence. I injured my back pulling a rusted plow out of wet ground 2 months ago. Slipped a disc. Doctor told me to rest. Rest. As if farmers get to rest. As if men like me know how. So I waited until Tina drove to town one morning and dragged myself out of bed like a drunk bear coming out of hibernation. The tool shed was where I was headed. I needed nails. That was it. Instead, I found a cookie tin. Old metal, floral print kind. Dusty and dented. Tucked behind the insulation rolls like someone hoped it'd be forgotten. I wasn't looking for secrets. I was looking for nails. But secrets found me anyway. Inside were letters. Stacks of them, folded tight, tied with twine, smelling like perfume and hay and something else I couldn't name. I stared at them for a long time, like maybe I could pretend they weren't there. Like maybe I could shut the lid and forget what I'd seen. But the top letter was already halfway open. Tina, my wild one. Every time I touch you, it feels like lightning. Every time I see you with him, I want to scream. Tell me when. Tell me where. I'll come running. Signed L. I read another. Then another. Some were old. Some new. Some full of heat. Others full of promises she never made to me. She wrote back to him, too. I could tell. Her handwriting was missing. But the way he answered, the way he referenced things, inside jokes, moments they shared, it was a dialogue. Between two people in love. But I was not one of them. I should have stopped. Should have shut the lid and limped away. Instead, I kept going. Couldn't help it. Like scratching a wound just to feel something. The last letter was cleaner. Less yellowed. Dated just a few weeks ago. I can't wait forever, Tina. When are you going to tell him? I want you with me. Not as a secret. As mine. Yours forever. Luke. Luke. The name punched me harder than the back injury ever could. Luke Carson. 28. Hired him on last fall to help around the farm. Strong kid. Charming. Bit too smooth for my liking, but he worked hard. Or at least pretended to. Tina said we needed the help. Said I was getting too old to do it alone. The bastard was living under my roof. Eating at my table. Handing me tools. Calling me sir. He smiled at me with my wife's lipstick probably still on his skin. I sat on the shed floor for a long time. Couldn't move. Could barely breathe. The pain in my spine was nothing compared to what was happening in my chest. Eventually, I put the letters back in the tin. Every single one. Tied the twine neat like I found it. Slid it behind the insulation. Same spot. Same silence. And then I stood up. Slowly. Carefully. Every inch of my body screaming. But something colder had taken root in me. Something older than pain. I made it back into the house before she returned. Lay back down like nothing happened. She walked in whistling, carrying groceries, humming some country song. She kissed my forehead and asked if I needed more ice for my back. I smiled. Said, no, I'm good. Because I had what I needed now. Proof. And if there's one thing the military taught me, you don't confront the enemy when you're angry. You wait. You watch. You make a plan. A man learns a lot when he pretends not to know. I started watching her like a stranger would. Not like a husband. Not like the man she made promises to 19 years ago in a borrowed white dress on the courthouse steps. No, like a ghost in the walls. Tina didn't notice at first. She moved around the house the same way she always had. Soft footsteps, humming while she folded laundry, sighing too often for someone with no one to complain to. But once you know what to look for, the cracks glow like neon signs. I noticed the way her eyes lingered when Luke walked by shirtless. Even when it was cold. Even when there was no reason for him to be shirtless except to show off the tan and the muscles and the damn dimple that shows when he smirks. She looked away quickly, like it burned her. But she looked. I noticed how her perfume changed. Used to be lilac, cheap stuff from the general store. Now it was something muskier. Foreign. Something that clung to the kitchen towel after she dried her hands. She laughed more around him. Not big belly laughs. No, she was too careful for that. But soft ones. Subtle. The kind that hide in the corner of your mouth. I started leaving my bedroom door cracked at night. Couldn't sleep anyway, not with everything rattling in my head. And I'd hear things, her voice, lower, gentler, somewhere near the pantry. Not quite whispering, but not speaking loud enough to be casual either. The phone cord stretched just out of sight. I miss you too. No, he's still healing. Soon. I logged it all away. Like a soldier taking notes in enemy territory. And then came the thing I couldn't shake. Tuesday. Tina said she had errands in town. Needed to pick up feed and stop by the bank. She got dressed nice, jeans that fit a little too snug and a blue sweater that only came out for birthdays and church. I watched from the window as she walked out the front door, purse over her shoulder, keys jingling. I waited. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. But the car never left the driveway. I limped to the back porch and scanned the property. And that's when I saw it. Her silhouette slipping into the barn. I stood there for a long while, staring at the closed barn doors, heart pounding like I'd just run 10 miles. And then I went back inside. Because this wasn't the moment. Not yet. I needed more than a hunch. More than perfume and whispers and soft glances. I needed something undeniable. That night, over dinner, I asked her how town was. She didn't blink. Oh, busy, she said, ladling stew into my bowl. The bank was packed. And the feed stores raising prices again. Is that right? I said, not looking up. She asked how my back was doing. I smiled. Getting stronger every day. She smiled back, tight-lipped, eyes flicking down. Guilt, maybe. Or fear. Hard to tell the difference when someone's practiced. Luke didn't eat with us that night. Said he was working late on the north fence line. She didn't ask about him. But she checked her phone when she thought I wasn't looking. At night, this house talks. It creaks different now. The floorboards groan like they're in pain. Like they know what I know. Like they're just waiting for me to tear this whole place down, brick by brick, truth by ugly truth. I couldn't sleep. Again. Tina was curled up on the far edge of the bed, breathing soft and steady like nothing in the world was wrong. Like her husband hadn't found the love letters she tucked beneath our floorboards like bones under a porch. I watched the ceiling fan spin slow overhead, counting revolutions, waiting for the witching hour. Then I heard it. A whisper. Not close, not loud, but sharp enough to slice through the dark. It was coming from the pantry. I eased myself out of bed, every vertebra screaming in protest, and followed the sound like a bloodhound. The floor was cold under my feet. The house didn't creak this time. It held its breath. Tina's voice was soft, but not soft enough. No, he's sleeping. Pause. I told you I'll handle it. Another pause. Stop asking. He still can't lift a bag of feed without wincing. Then something else, lower, muffled. I couldn't make it out. I leaned in. A thump. Not from her. From upstairs. The damn dog had knocked over a lamp again. Or maybe it was just my imagination trying to sabotage me. Either way, I backed off before she heard me outside the door. By the time I made it back to bed, her side was empty. She came in 10 minutes later, walking like a teenager sneaking in after curfew. Slipped under the covers without a word. She didn't know I was awake. She didn't know I was drowning in every damn lie she thought I was too broken to see. The next morning, Luke came in for breakfast. Shirtless. Again. It was 47 degrees. You must run hot, I said, spooning eggs onto his plate. He grinned. Something like that. Tina didn't laugh. But she looked. A flash, just a flicker. But I saw it. Later that afternoon, I watched from the upstairs window as Luke chopped wood near the barn. Sweating like it was July. Muscles flexing like he was posing for a damn magazine cover. And she brought him lemonade. Fresh. With mint. She hadn't made lemonade in months. I should have gone down there. Should have said something. Should have kicked that bastard so hard he landed back in whatever dust bowl he came from. But I didn't. Because I wasn't ready yet. That night, I heard moaning. It was faint. Like a wounded animal. I followed it. And it led me outside. To the barn. The doors were closed. But the top slat was cracked just wide enough for the truth to slip through. I saw her shadow move. And his. Too close. Too familiar. She wasn't supposed to be able to bend like that with a bad knee. He wasn't supposed to touch what I still called mine. But I stood there, heart pounding, hands clenched. Because this wasn't the moment. No, not yet. You don't fire your only bullet until the enemy's close enough to taste the powder. I went back inside and started planning. Sometimes the smartest move is pretending you're still on the ground. By now, I knew everything but the color of the sheets they rolled around on. But I wasn't angry. Not the way you'd think. I was surgical, focused. I'd seen men cheat death by inches in Vietnam. Legs missing, lungs collapsing, and still fake a smile long enough to pull the pin. That's where I was. Just waiting to pull the pin. So I made myself slower, weaker, more helpless than I actually was. Let Tina believe her lies were safe. Let Luke think the old man was too broken to fight back. I stopped doing my morning stretches. Let the pain return to my walk. Took the pills she laid out each night, even the ones that made me foggy. She watched me limp across the kitchen like she was watching a clock wind down. You should really think about long-term help, she said one night while buttering toast. We can't run this place on pride alone. I thought that's all we had left, I said, not looking up. She didn't laugh. Later that week, she brought up the loan again. Joint loan. To expand the farm. Said it'd bring in more money, more efficiency. Said Luke could help manage the new side property they'd been eyeing. Said it was all for our future. Funny how she said, our, but never looked me in the eye when she did. I let her talk. Nodded along. Asked smart-sounding questions like I was weighing the risks. She slid the paperwork across the table 2 days later. Her hands were shaking. She said it was the wind. I already signed, she said, tapping the dotted line. Just needs yours. Think it'll really help? I asked, pen hovering. She smiled that fake, too tight smile. It's what we need. What you need. I looked at her. Really looked. This woman I built a life with. Who used to bring me beer on hot days and fall asleep on my chest during storms. Now she couldn't even meet my gaze without flinching. I signed, slow and steady, then handed her the pen back. With a smile, I said. She froze for half a beat, then smiled back. The trap had sprung. She just didn't know it yet. You don't need to catch them naked to know they're screwing you. It was laundry day. Tina was out back, hanging sheets like some damn Norman Rockwell painting. Wind catching the corners, sun hitting her just right. You'd think we were the happiest couple in the Midwest if you looked quick. But I wasn't looking quick anymore. I was looking hard. That's when I found it. I'd gone into the barn looking for a hammer. What I found was Luke's old toolbox, half buried under a pile of feed sacks. I don't know what made me open it. Maybe instinct. Maybe just the itch of suspicion that never let me sleep anymore. Top tray was wrenches and screws. Second tray was more interesting. A silver ring. Small. Worn. Familiar. Tina's old wedding ring. The one she stopped wearing last summer. Said it didn't fit anymore because her hands were swelling. Funny how her fingers never looked swollen when she ran them through Luke's hair. I stared at that ring for a long time. It sat there like a bullet on velvet. Clean, cold, and waiting. And that's when it hit me. All the times she'd said she was tired. Too sore. Too busy. All the nights she rolled away from me in bed, claiming headaches or early mornings. All lies. Every one of them. Because that ring wasn't just in Luke's toolbox. It was with him, hidden like a trophy. And maybe that's what this whole thing was to him. Some game. Some notch. To her, maybe it was escape. But to me, it was war. That evening, I found them in the kitchen. Fully clothed. But too close. Way too close. She was laughing at something he said. Real laughter this time. The kind I hadn't heard in years. Her hand brushed his arm like it had every right to be there. And he leaned in. That cocky, practiced grin spreading across his face like he thought he owned the place. Neither of them heard me walk in. I stood there, letting the silence announce me. Tina flinched first. Oh, hey babe, she said, stepping back so fast it looked like she'd been caught stealing. Luke straightened up. Mr. McAllister, he said, voice chipper. Didn't hear you come in. I noticed, I said. He rubbed the back of his neck, trying to play innocent. We were just talking about the fencing project. Yeah, Tina chimed in, too quick. He was just explaining the wood situation. The wood, I said flatly. Luke nodded, oblivious to how close he was to having a pitchfork embedded in his throat. Yeah, I was thinking we could double the posts on the north line. I stepped forward, eyes locked on hers. She wouldn't look at me, wouldn't even try, just twisted that same dish towel between her hands like it held the answers. Sounds like a solid plan, I said. Glad to know we're investing in sturdy things these days. Neither of them spoke. So I walked past them, slow, like my back was still too bad to let me charge. But I wasn't weak anymore. and they just made a fatal mistake. They got comfortable. She thinks I'm broken, but I've never been sharper. It's funny. They both think I don't know. Tina with her fake smiles and slow-burn guilt. Luke with his firm handshakes and shirtless chores. They think I'm the old man in the corner, too proud to see the truth, too wounded to fight back. But the thing about being underestimated, it gives you time. Time to build. Time to prepare. Time to burn the whole damn house down slow. So I started collecting. Not rage. Not bruises. Evidence. I dug out the cookie tin again when they were gone and scanned every letter, every date, every disgusting vow. I took photos of each one and uploaded them to a hidden folder on a burner laptop I'd bought off a college kid 3 towns over. No passwords. No paper trail. No trace. Next, I got copies of the loan papers. Every signature, every clause she thought I didn't read. Guess what happens when a woman commits financial fraud using her disabled husband's name? It's not just betrayal. It's a felony. I started building a timeline. Letters, money transfers, purchase receipts. One time Tina drove to a church fundraiser in a new sundress and came back 2 hours late smelling like peppermint schnapps and cologne that wasn't mine. That receipt from the gas station just outside Hilbin? It went in the file. The beer she claimed was on sale at the feed store, but matched the brand Luke drinks? Into the file. Every smirk. Every whisper. Every lie. Click. Save. Timestamped. But the best piece came from town. I drove there midweek, slow and stiff, leaning hard on a cane I didn't really need anymore, and stopped into the newspaper office. Used a fake name, Ray Carter. Said I was working on a memoir, wanted to share a true rural story with some bite. The receptionist passed me off to a junior reporter named Ellie. Young, eager, probably thought she was the next Woodward or Bernstein. "What ya got?" she asked, notebook in hand. I gave her the short version. A soldier. A wife. A betrayal. A financial con wrapped in corn and sweet tea. Her eyes got wider with every sentence. "You're saying your wife and her lover." "Alleged," I said. "For now." She smiled. "You have proof." I handed her a thumb drive. Photos, bank statements, handwritten letters, and a loan that was never what it seemed. She whistled under her breath. "This is a hell of a story." "It gets better," I said. "They don't know I know." She looked up. "You sure you want this going public?" I smiled. "Eventually." We shook hands. She leaned in, curious. "What's the end game?" "You'll know when it hits the front page." Later that night, I limped into the living room and found Tina on the couch, watching one of those reality shows where women scream at each other about who slept with who. She looked up, startled. "Everything okay?" she asked. "Better than it's been in months," I said, and sat beside her. She smiled like she believed it. Luke was out somewhere, probably planting seeds he wouldn't get to harvest. You'd be amazed what a man can do when no one's looking. I told her I was feeling better. Just a little at first, enough to sit straighter, walk longer, fake a grunt instead of a wince. Tina noticed, of course. Said I looked more like myself lately. I smiled. That's the thing about pretending to be weak. Eventually, when you start to stand again, they think it's a miracle. She started bringing me coffee in the mornings. Fresh sheets on the bed. Even offered a back rub one night. Like kindness could unburn the barn. I let her believe this was healing. Luke was in on it too, though he played it cool. He started showing up later for breakfast, gave me a wider berth during chores, kept his voice respectful but distant. Cowards always smell the shift first. That's when I dropped the idea of a vacation. "Just the two of us," I said one night over dinner. "Thought we could take the truck down south. Maybe see the Smokies. Clear our heads." Tina blinked, caught off guard. "I thought you couldn't ride that long," she said. "I can now," I said. "I've been pushing harder. Feels good." She looked at me like I was something shiny again. Like maybe the man she married wasn't completely gone. A pause. Then she smiled. "I'd love that. So would Luke, I bet." I booked a cabin. Printed the confirmation. Left it on the counter where she could find it. Bought groceries she liked. Packed snacks for the road. A couple of new shirts. Told her we'd leave Saturday morning at 6 o'clock sharp. She baked a pie that night. Cherry. Her favorite, not mine. I sat in the living room and watched her float around the kitchen, humming, planning, pretending. She kissed my cheek on her way to bed, and I kissed her back. She thought she'd won. That I was choosing her over bitterness. That we'd ride off into some version of forgiveness where sins rot quietly in the past. She had no idea I was already gone. I left at 3:42 a.m. Saturday morning, packed a duffel bag, took the burner laptop, the thumb drive, and the dog tags I hadn't worn in 15 years. Truck was quiet, tires low enough not to crunch gravel too loud. I didn't leave a note, didn't leave anything but silence. She woke up hours later to find the bed cold, the truck missing, and her phone with no messages. And I guarantee the panic set in slow, at first. A call. No answer. Another. Straight to voicemail. By noon, she'd be pacing. By nightfall, she'd be calling Luke, pretending to be calm. But the quiet would be louder than any storm she'd ever weathered. Because this time, the man she betrayed didn't scream. He vanished, and left her holding the rope she thought she'd tied around his neck. Sometimes revenge looks like a headline. Tina didn't know where I went. That was the point. She tried calling a few friends, I'm sure. Probably even called my cousin Mark, the one with a bad drinking habit and a habit of lying for me. I'd warned him a week earlier. If Tina calls, you never heard from me. Not a damn word. By Sunday afternoon, the calls stopped. But the silence? It got louder. Monday morning, the paper hit every porch in town. Folded neat, crisp, smelling like ink and coming storm. Front page. Love, lies, and alone. A farmhand affair on McAllister land. Byline, Ellie Palmer, staff writer. Tina's full name. My name. Luke's mugshot. Yep, mugshot, from a minor charge in another state. Vandalism. Disorderly conduct. Never told us about that part of his past. Photos of the farm. The loan details. Handwritten letter excerpts. Just enough to set the town buzzing without being crude. My favorite line. Sources say the affair began while the husband was recovering from a serious back injury, during which the wife and farmhand initiated a romantic and financial partnership without the husband's knowledge. Tina must have dropped her coffee when she saw it, because by noon, I got a text from an unknown number. How could you do this to me? I didn't answer, because she hadn't asked that when she was undressing in the barn. At 3:14 p.m., my phone buzzed again, same number. Please, let's talk. Again, I didn't respond. Instead, I called Ellie. You published it, I said. She laughed. It's blowing up, Ben. Half the county's sharing it. Our server almost crashed this morning. You protect my identity like we agreed? Every word. You're just a source close to the family. But let's be real, anyone who knows you already knows. That night, Tina's parents showed up at the farmhouse. Dale and Marlene. Old school. Conservative. God-fearing folks who thought Tina had married a good man and built a decent life. I respected them. Always had. Which is why I'd mailed them a copy of the article myself, 2 days before it went live. I wasn't there to see the confrontation, but I pictured it like this. Dale, red in the face, waving the newspaper in the air like a Bible. You lied to us, Tina. You lied to everyone. Marlene, weeping in the kitchen, whispering, how could you do this to Ben? Luke wasn't there. He'd gone into town that morning. Probably never came back. Tina? She was alone. Her shame, finally visible to more than just me. She thought she left me broken. She just didn't check the bank account. The article was just the appetizer. The main course came a few days later. A call from the bank. I wasn't there to hear it, of course, but I know exactly how it went. Mrs. McAllister, we're calling to confirm the funds transfer from your joint account to the Cayman branch. Just protocol on international holdings. Silence on her end, probably. Then, I'm sorry, what transfer? The banker repeats it. Calm, professional. Approved and signed by Benjamin McAllister. Full balance moved. Account closed. Another pause. Then the panic sets in. Because the money's gone. All of it. The loan. The farm funds. My pension. Every dollar she thought she'd used to build a new life with Luke. Poof. She probably drove to the branch, demanded answers, slammed her fists on a desk that didn't owe her anything. But the signatures were real. Because I signed them. Legally. Strategically. With every ounce of intent. A week before I disappeared, I sat down with a lawyer 2 counties over. Someone with no ties to our farm, our name, or our gossip trail. I showed him the letters. The loan. The fake love built on real debt. He smiled like he'd seen it 100 times. You want revenge? He asked. No, I said. I want receipts. The new offshore holding? Set up in my name only. Legally shielded. Untouchable unless she could prove I was mentally incapacitated when I signed. Which she couldn't. because she'd been telling everyone how much better I'd been doing. It was airtight. When Tina realized what I'd done, I imagined the scream came from somewhere deep. Not just anger, not just loss, rage. Because betrayal doesn't hurt until the consequences arrive with a ledger and a zero balance. I got another text that day. "You left me with nothing." I stared at it for a long while, then sent back just 3 words. "You earned that." She didn't reply. Didn't have to, because now she knew. She hadn't just lost me. She'd lost the cushion she planned to land on. Turns out, loyalty's hard to find when the money runs out. Luke didn't stick around long after the article dropped. Or maybe he tried to, but the town made sure he couldn't. People stared at him in the feed store, whispering behind shelves. Husbands muttered slurs under their breath. Wives clutched purses tighter. Nobody wanted to buy hay from a homewrecker. He left the farm the same way he came in, light-footed, with nothing of value in his truck but charm and cologne. Tina tried to stop him. I know she did. The neighbor down the road, Mitch Reynolds, called to say he saw her chasing Luke's rust bucket Ford down the gravel, barefoot, screaming his name like it was still worth saving. He didn't stop, didn't even slow down. He was gone before the dust settled. Tina, now alone, must have gone digging. Tried to reach him, called old numbers, checked his social pages, maybe even called hospitals just in case. But there's nothing there, because Luke Carson isn't real, at least not the version she knew. The charming drifter, the loyal worker, the future escape plan. No, he was a grifter with a record, a resume as fake as his stories. And someone at the paper found it all. The second article dropped Wednesday morning. Drifter or deceiver, the farmhand behind the affair. It detailed his priors, petty theft, public intoxication, even a few fraud-related charges under different names. Turned out Luke had a pattern. Show up, be useful, charm the lonely, take what he could, then vanish before the questions caught up. Tina didn't just cheat with another man. She built her future on a professional liar with a six-pack and a good smile. And now she had to sit in that empty house, watching the town chew up her name like spoiled meat. Calls stopped coming. Invites vanished. Her church group put her on silent. And every time someone Googled her name, up popped the headline. A farmhand affair. You can't unwrite a story once the ink is blood. She couldn't walk through town without heads turning. Couldn't pump gas without someone pretending not to stare. Couldn't even buy milk without a cashier scanning slower, quieter, like they were handling broken glass. The article didn't just ruin her name. It made her famous. The wrong kind of famous. So Tina did what cowards do when the truth gets too loud. She tried to bury it. The letters. The ones I'd returned without a word. She thought she'd burned them once. But they kept breathing. I'd made copies of every single one. Left the originals back where I found them, deep under insulation, tied neat with twine like love deserved preservation. She must have found them again one night. And this time, she didn't hesitate. Late Sunday evening, just before dusk, she marched into the east field with a metal bucket, a box of matches, and a rage she couldn't carry anymore. The neighbor's teenage son was flying a drone, practicing for some school project. He caught it all. The video started with Tina standing in the middle of the wheat stubble, arms shaking, letters flapping in the wind like dying birds. She stuffed them into the bucket, struck a match with a hand that wouldn't stop trembling, and lit the past on fire. It burned fast, angry, bright. But she wasn't done. She screamed at it, loud, guttural, like the letters could hear her. Like Luke might rise from the ash and apologize. Then she kicked the bucket over. Flames licked at dry grass. Spread quick. She panicked, stomped, slapped at the fire, but it was too late. 2 rows caught. Then 4. That's when the video cuts off. But the internet never did. The boy posted it on TikTok with the caption, "Cheating wife tries to erase the past, burns her own field instead." It went viral overnight. 500,000 views by Monday. By Tuesday, news stations were calling the sheriff's department asking about fire safety violations on private farmland. By Wednesday, a meme of her crying in the smoke made it to Facebook. She was no longer just a local scandal. She was a punchline, a cautionary tale wrapped in flames. She came at me with a lawyer. I came back with the truth. I knew it was coming. After the fire, after the humiliation, after her new boyfriend ghosted her and the town slammed its doors, Tina did what desperate people always do. She tried to sue me, claimed I drained the joint account without consent. claimed I coerced her into signing the loan papers, claimed emotional distress, abandonment, financial fraud. It would have been laughable if it wasn't so predictable. The courthouse smelled like bleach and lost causes. Her lawyer was slick, new suit, fake concern, smug like he thought this would be easy money. He handed over the complaint with a smirk. Your client left a woman destitute. My lawyer, Roger Mathers, didn't smirk back. He just slid a file across the table. Neat. Organized. Deadly. Here's the loan, signed freely. Here's her text messages to the farmhand while her husband was bedridden. Here's the video of her burning private property in a fit of rage. And here, he tapped the page, is a notarized statement from her father confirming she admitted to the affair before the money vanished. The other lawyer paled a little. Roger leaned in. Your client doesn't have a case. She has a spotlight she's trying to crawl out from under. Still, Tina tried to play the victim in court, cried on the stand, wore soft colors, spoke in a trembling voice like I'd left her barefoot in the snow. She robbed him, Roger said plainly, of money, dignity, trust. She weaponized his injury and built a fantasy on his ruin. The judge listened, stone-faced, and then dropped the gavel like thunder. Motion denied. Assets frozen, pending further investigation into loan misuse and possible conspiracy to defraud a lender, which meant everything Tina had left, savings, equipment, even her name on the deed, was legally stuck. Just like her. Outside the courtroom, I passed her without a word. She looked at me like I was supposed to say something. Beg. Apologize. Acknowledge her pain. Instead, I buttoned my coat and walked right past her, the way she used to walk past my pain when Luke was fixing fences until midnight. And just like that, the silence she left me in came roaring back around her. But this time, it was hers to carry. She thought humiliation had a bottom. She was wrong. They stopped saying her name in public. That's how I knew it was working. No more Tina at the diner, or Tina from the farm. Just lowered voices, glances, whispers that died the second she turned her head. Even the church ladies dropped her. You know you've hit rock bottom when the same women who pray for meth heads and drunk drivers won't meet your eyes at Sunday service. Word was, she started calling around for part-time work. No one bit. Not because she couldn't work, but because she couldn't be trusted. See, it wasn't just the affair. It was the way she tried to bury it. The way she lied. The fire. The lawsuit. The gall. People don't forget that kind of arrogance. Especially not in a town where gossip travels faster than God. The farm equipment was the next to go. Repossessed. Hauled off in broad daylight. I didn't have to be there to see it. But Mitch, my old neighbor, called and gave me the play-by-play anyway. John Deere trailer pulled up right after lunch, he said. Big OL guy in a ball cap walked up to her with papers. She stood there in her robe, shouting something about rights and misunderstandings. And they took it anyway. Tractor, cedar, even the damn sprayer. She stood in the gravel, barefoot, hair a mess, mascara bleeding down her cheeks. Looked less like the woman who cheated on me and more like someone who'd been haunted by herself. The house got quiet after that. No more visitors. No more late-night whispers. Just the wind and the echoes of what she'd done. Then, 1 week later, a letter arrived at the P.O. box I'd set up in another state. No return address. Just my name, written in handwriting I'd memorized 19 years ago. Inside, one sentence. You've made your point. I didn't respond, but I sent one back. Typed. Cold. No return address either. Now we're even. Some men disappear to hide. I disappeared to live. I landed in Oklahoma. Small town. Smaller expectations. No one here cares who I used to be. No one asks about my limp or my scars. They just see a quiet man who knows how to mend fences, doesn't drink too much, and always finishes what he starts. I rented a room above a hardware store. Started fixing things, barn doors, broken gates, whatever folks needed. Never for more than I was worth. Always in cash. Eventually, I bought a little plot of land outside town. Nothing big, just enough to breathe. Every morning I wake up with the sun, make black coffee in a rusted tin pot, and remind myself what silence is supposed to feel like. Peace, not punishment. Some nights I drive out past the ridge and park near the veterans' shelter. Just sit in the truck, engine off, watching the porch lights flicker. Sometimes I leave envelopes. No name, just cash and a note that says, for the ones still fighting. They never ask who it's from. and I never stick around long enough to hear the guesses. I'm not looking for redemption, just purpose. Something Tina never understood. Something Luke never even knew how to fake. I still carry the cookie tin. It sits on a shelf in my cabin, tucked behind a row of books no one will ever borrow. It holds something new now. Cash, passports, and a gun. Not because I expect trouble, but because I've learned the past isn't always done with you just because you've buried it. Sometimes it digs itself up, shows up at your door with old perfume and new apologies. But if it does, I'm ready. The house remembers. She came back eventually. Not because she wanted to, because there was nowhere else left to go. The farmhouse stood like a carcass, empty, hollowed out by shame and rot. The paint had peeled. The porch sagged. Weeds reached through the cracks like hands trying to drag her under. Inside, it still smelled like us. Old wood, lemons, ghosts. The kitchen sink was dry, rusted at the corners. The fridge was gone. So were the chairs, the bed frame, the curtains. All sold, all pawned, all traded for just a little more time she never earned. But the walls, they remembered. Every whispered lie, every laugh she gave Luke that used to belong to me, every kiss I never got back. She walked from room to room like she was searching for something she forgot. Maybe her youth, maybe her dignity, maybe the version of me that still believed she was the best thing that ever happened to me. The cookie tin was gone, of course, but she didn't know that. So she checked anyway, crawled under the floorboards, dust in her mouth, knees scraped raw, digging for what she'd buried in more ways than one. And then she found it. One letter. Just one. The only one I left behind. Not from me. From him. Luke. The last one he ever wrote. If you ever leave him, I'll make us disappear. That line must have hit different now, because he was the one who disappeared. And she was the one left behind, with nothing but memories and an empty house full of echoes. She sat on the floor for a long time. Didn't cry. Didn't scream. Just held that letter like it might still offer a way out. But it didn't, because I was already gone. Not just from her life. From that version of myself. The loyal fool. The faithful husband. The man who believed love was a promise no one would dare break. That man died quietly, the night I found the letters. And the one who took his place? He doesn't write back. But it was Ben who vanished first, and he took her soul with him.